I haven't bought my own copy of the Fujifilm 18mm f1.4, but I've gone ahead and listed my 16mm f1.4 for sale. I tried to fight it, but the more time I spent with this new 27mm equivalent, the more I realized that this was better suited for the photography that I capture. Now I should also say, and I highlighted this in a previous video, that I have sold a good amount of my Fujifilm gear as I transition my professional work to the GFX ecosystem and slim down my street kit in the process. However, this 18mm is just something else where Fujifilm is looking to swing for the fences. And while it might not be the longest lens review I've ever done, there's still a lot to cover. So I've left timestamps in the description below. But for those of you that watch from beginning to end, drop a high five in the comment and let's get this show started.
But God might be on vacation, and the promised land ain't never promised. My baby telling me to be patient, but the devil always working overnight, my darling.
It wasn't until I published my first impressions I started to really connect with a ton of people that were waiting for a refreshed Fujifilm 27mm lens like a PS5's restock notification. Seriously, Sony, a year and it's still this hard to get? And before any of you shout out chip shortage in the comments, this Fujifilm lens really surprised me in how it was able to bring that pop to photography. I've mentioned this before, how that 2mm difference between this and the 16mm 1.4 doesn't sound like much, but actually translates to something bigger. And well, I have to double down on this statement. There's also a level of sharpness to this lens that feels like it should ship with a higher price tag. Side note, Fujifilm, please don't raise the price. This is something that a lot of us are waiting for and also waiting for it to go on sale. It's a massive upgrade over the 18mm f2 that when you see it firsthand, you truly get to appreciate and even feel inspired by. I would find myself looking at some of the images and feeling this immediate creative electricity about the work and, capturing different compositions. Where the 16 1.4 touches the border of acceptable distortion, this lens almost has none. And while it's a shame that a camera like the Fujifilm X Pro 3 doesn't show the frame lines for this lens in the optical viewfinder mode, the phenomenal optics make you quickly forget about that oversight. In the hands, this lens feels really comfortable. At 370 grams, this thing doesn't tip your camera too far forward, which makes for easy maneuvering in the studio and the streets. With a filter size of 62mm, it isn't the smallest profile by any means, but as a package, this lens never feels big. And I think that's what adds to the mystique, where the images definitely feel bigger than the tool that's used to capture them. That relationship, or whatever you want to call it, well, I think that's what makes being a photographer with a Fuji camera so special. Now, I'll get to some of the improvements that this lens could bring, but how about a little bit of science? Okay, maybe not entirely, but I gotta give some credit to the engineers at Fujifilm for throwing in four unique glass elements that give you that sharpness and separation in your images across the aperture range. Seriously, this has to be the sharpest lens they've ever made, where it either ties or edges out the 90mm f2.0. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I think we're just splitting hairs, but in short, if you are a sharpness whore, is that okay to say out loud? If you like it sharp, you're gonna find a way to add this lens to your collection. And let's be honest, sharpness alone is not enough to make a lens a must-have. The fall-off and bokeh that this 18mm f1.4 produces are really special, especially when you're spending more intention around your composition. You can really get these gorgeous shots. For example, if I were a wedding photographer, pairing this lens with a 56 or 50 1.0 would make for an insane duo that all but guarantees beautiful pictures of and for your bride and groom. Those two on two bodies, and let me tell you, we're not only getting great shots, but we're getting a ton more clients at the reception. Now, enough of all these nice things, because there has to be some negatives to this lens. In some ways it can get better, right? Okay, this is tough. Well, how am I supposed to stand here and make an argument that the best glass that Fujifilm has arguably made can be better? I don't know, it's something that has me really scratching my head. you have this lens that has a valuable focal length, phenomenal optics, notable upgrades from its predecessor at an acceptable price. It's really hard for me to see how this lens gets significantly better. Sure, I would have loved to see a clutch focusing mechanism on this lens similar to the 16-1.4, but the more I thought about it, the more I think that it doesn't make sense because it's about trade-offs. You know, you have something that if you were to add in would make it heavier, more expensive, and more cumbersome to use, albeit a little bit more convenient, but that convenience I don't think most Fujifilm photographers care about. I don't know. Gun to my head, I would have liked to have seen an aperture ring on this lens that's a little bit firmer. Don't get me wrong, it's not a slip and slide like the one on the 56mm F1.2. However, a bit more friction may have been valuable. That being said, what am I supposed to pretend like this is some major issue that's gonna stop you from capturing great images? No, let's not kid ourselves. Choice. There is so much damn choice in the Fujifilm ecosystem for lenses, and it's only getting bigger as more vendors come into the fold. So if you look at the landscape, you start to see and you start to wonder, you know, where do these things stack up? Which one should you get and which direction should you go in? The truth is there's not many bad options. It's just a matter of, like I said before, trade-offs. Look, I've made a ton of videos on lenses and favorites and lists and all that kind of shit that you can really explore if you're interested. In the interest of time, this lens sits at the top in terms of the perspective it offers, and it's good enough to have you questioning your affinity for the 23 or 35 lenses that Fujifilm makes. Do you need this lens? Maybe, maybe not. It really comes down to what you capture. Let's be honest, most of these lenses are better than the people that are using them. Personally, I don't have a strong enough desire to add this to my collection right now. After shifting my personal collection in a certain way, having smaller focus kits that are targeting different aspects of my creative workflow is just far more valuable to me as a creator. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if I added this lens to my kit in the future, especially as I start to travel more and start to document some of these new places. I might start to feel this urge to expand my street photography kit from 2 perspectives to 3, where that third is deservedly occupied by this gem right here. Lens reviews are kind of weird to do nowadays. I get requests from several smaller vendors, and I want to be honest, I'm at a place where if I wouldn't personally invest in something, I don't want to talk about it. So I'm left with products that are pretty damn good and worth their price tag. The Fujifilm XF 18mm F1.4 is a damn good lens that just keeps up with whatever you throw at it. Be it photo or video, the zippy autofocus, the stupid good optics make for an experience that is fulfilling and enjoyable. You want to be able to shoot more, and if you know anything about me by now, something that makes you want to create more is far more valuable than numbers on a spec sheet. Fujifilm has been refining their lenses for the X mount for nearly a decade, and with a few more additions on the horizon, they show no signs of slowing down. The 18mm F1.4 is a testament to their engineering when it's at its best, and I truly believe there's no denying that this is a benchmark lens for the company. And there you have it. That is my review of the new 18 from Fujifilm. If you've enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel and support our journey. We are trying to grow this thing, and your support goes a long way in us being able to do more interesting things and tell interesting stories. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, my name's Gadgen. Did I just say as always, like back to... Well, my name's Gadgen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.